mulligan to 6 here, and yeah, immediately Ben, after seeing that Sulfur Falls, throws a shock upstairs.
That's probably where it's going. Maybe a little aggressive for my taste. Turn 1 Sulfur Falls is still potentially turn 2 Goblin Electromancer.
Yeah, it's going to be opt by Charlotte. Discovery for Ben. Bins another copy of Shock. Yeah, if you're turn 1 throwing a Shock upstairs, that's a big sign like, hey, this is what I'm boarding out as soon as I get the chance.
Right.
And we have Enigma Drake from Ben. First threat, we'll see if Charlotte can answer.
It is currently a 3-4. There is a main deck and a sideboard copy of Justice Strike. That won't do it just yet.
Yeah, he's got to pump it one more time.
So you got to figure a player that's firing shocks upstairs has some other action they can do something with.
It's interesting on Ben. If you're on Ben's side, do you swing and then play your instance, or do you just play into the Justice Strike here?
Justice Strike is usually not the kind of card that you would ever see 4 copies of. I don't mind pumping first. Basically, if you're only attacking for 3 over time, you're not winning the game anyway.
Ooh, and I love this. And Ben does. He could have opted pre-combat, but no, he'll deal the 3 and now go to work. Maybe just had the read.
Had the read, or maybe he had another Drake. We'll see exactly if that's what the dilemma was.
Land 4. Yeah, it looks like there is a Crackling Drake in hand. So in that situation, best just to play it this way anyway.
Yeah, there would not be huge concern about getting 2 Drakes swept up, passing your opponent going to 4 mana.
Yeah, you see Syncopate, though, in the front of Charlotte's hand. Ben goes for the Crackling Drake, and Charlotte's at the ready. She'll have she's going to opt first. I love this.
Are you going to announce Syncopate for 0?
Yeah. I thought it would be Syncopate. It doesn't really matter the ordering, but this way it makes it look like you might have top-decked it, which I always appreciate.
Yes.
And Syncopate will exile away the Crackling Drake.
4 p.m. Modern Challenge players. Your 4th and final round pairings are being posted at the gathering point. Please.
And 4th land and pass. In Charlotte's hand, opt, Sinister Sabotage, Justice Strike. And now Ben will pump the Drake up to a 4-4 with a main phase opt, meaning Justice Strike will be able to remove Enigma Drake.
Here's a look at the hand.
She will try for Justice Strike, though Ben has a dive down.
I believe there's an expansion explosion available to Lewis. She could copy the Justice Strike, go for it again.
And that is exactly what she's going to do.
And Ragen is so light on cards in hand. You know, Lewis is the one that mulliganed, but Ragen threw that shock upstairs, and now that the battlefield's clear, things look pretty good for Lewis.
Yeah, and Reagan's hand has 2 Lava Coils. Charlotte played a 5th land tapped, and she's got a Chemister's Insight in hand. Some pressure's on Ben here. He top decks a Crackling Drake. It's a good one, but she's going to have that Sinister Sabotage at the ready.
A pretty easy target for the counterspell. Ragen needs to start producing some Niv Mizzets.
What if instead Charlotte casts the Niv Mizzet?
That's bad for Ben.
And she's topping on the Surveil. 5 lands, and she will pass. Ben drew Niv Mizzet.
Are both players on 5 lands?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
well,
that's delightful.
Yeah, Charlotte has Chemister's Insight. So, draw. That second one was a land. Does it come into play untapped?
You don't want to be the second player to this party.
No, you don't. And Charlotte's going to be the first one there. Here's land 6. And just slams the Niv Mizzet. I mean, Ben can double Lava Coil it.
Yeah.
It is a play you can make.
That is a legal game action.
And he's going to do it. Oh, boy.
You gotta.
Yeah.
Alternative is actually lose, whereas this is just probably lose.
All right, so you give them 2 cards. Niv Mizzet is exiled. And Ben just says go hand his own Niv Mizzet and a copy of Discovery.
Now, the worst case scenario
is you drew another
Charlotte
Niv
just
Mizzet.
casts another Niv Mizzet. Thanks for playing. Some bad scenarios would just be something like a Teferi on this turn. All right, Crackling Drake, well, she has exhausted Ragen's Lava Coils.
We're at the point where you say, man, I hope my opponent just drew a Teferi on this empty board.
Over Niv Mizzet? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Charlotte casts Crackling Drake, leaves up 3. And for Ben, here is a copy of Discovery. He drew Enigma Drake for the turn. Still doesn't have the mana for that Niv Mizzet as he bins Search for Escanta.
Yeah, that one is late.
And here's a land, and here's the Enigma Drake.
Love to trade Enigma Drake for Crackling Drake. That's just not a good exchange. Oh, and Charlotte's
She's not going to allow it. No, no.
Nah, this thing is going to kill you.
Here's Crackling Drake on Charlotte's side. We're going to get a count on that graveyard, just how much damage is incoming. In these games, it tends to be a lot.
Yeah, we saw plenty of ops, some counter spells.
Love this Casting Chemist's Insight. Let's add one more to the count. And now we'll look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Looks like 6. We'll get a confirmation on that.
You'd like to see it get to at least 7 to make it a 2-turn clock here.
Yeah, well, she'll swing and put him. If it is just 6, you can probably make it 8 on the following turn.
Yeah. Ooh.
And we have a correction on life totals. It looks like maybe there was 10. I think if there was a hit for him, Ben is confirmed. Ben is at 4, so may have massively undercounted that graveyard. Here's Niv Mizzet. That's Ben's card.
Though he is out. That is on blocking duty.
Yeah, that's trading.
That is not what you want to do with your Niv Mizzet. See, when Charlotte cast Niv Mizzet,
she drew 1,000,000
there
cards.
were extra cards drawn, cards left Ragen's hand.
This one blocked. That's okay. It did a thing.
That's not okay. It's not
I mean, he didn't lose. That's a nice thing.
correct. Really need something like his second Niv Mizzet here.
Yeah, and remember, she has 2 copies of Chemist's Insight ready to jumpstart. That's exactly what she's going to do. Technically, Ben hasn't lost yet, but
Yeah.
it's not good.
He's treading water, but not super well. The current is strong.
You know, I can tread water for about 20 seconds.
That's it?
I'm really bad at swimming.
I was going to say.
This just feels like when I try to swim, you're like, you're doing it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, yep, I got this.
I would
I got
consider
this.
treading water for 20 seconds to be functionally treading water for 0 seconds. I would not
So you'd
list
say
that as a skill.
I'm drowning slowly, is what you're saying.
Right. You are in phase 1 of drowning.
is the, oh my gosh, what am I doing phase?
Right.
And it's a lava coil here for Ben. That's not going to do it. Charlotte takes the win on game 1.
Yeah. Sinister Sabotage locks that one up, and we're going to look at some sideboards.
All right, so going to the sideboards, Ben Ragen. He's down a game, so we'll look at his first. 3 copies of Entrancing Melody, 2 Rallies at Viceroy, 2 Disdainful Stroke, 2 Shivan Fire, 2 Rekindling Phoenix, a Treasure Map, a Beacon Bolt, a Lava Coil, that's the second Beacon Bolt, and then a 3rd Niv Mizzet.
Well, let's grab that one first.
Yep,
Niv Mizzet's the best card on both sides, so more copies. That makes sense to me. Beyond that, you look for cards that answer Niv Mizzet. The 2 Rallies at Viceroys, that Beacon Bolt. Spells that accelerate you towards Niv Mizzet. Treasure Map, that'll help you out there. And Disdainful Stroke's good against opposing Crackling Drakes and Teferis. It plays reasonably here.
Yeah, unlike the Brian Brunduin matchup where it was only hitting Teferi, it feels like Charlotte's deck has a lot more cards that it's going to be able to counter.
Right. And honestly, I think it's good enough, at least 1 copy, probably both, even if it is just Teferi. So that one seems pretty excellent here.
Yeah, I do agree. On Charlotte's side, she also has the Legion Warboss sideboard plan that we saw last round. Backing it up are Spell Pierce, Negate, Invoke the Divine, Star of Extinction, Justice Strike, Seal Away, 1 Lyra, and then looks like a 2nd Expansion Explosion. So this is really just the Legion Warbosses and then a bunch of different types of removal.
Yeah, and there's kind of that cat and mouse with the Legion Warboss. You saw how quickly Ragen was willing to expend a shock upstairs and to bin one with the Discovery there. So unless he already has Legion Warboss on his mind, I would expect his shocks to be out, and that could make the Warbosses really excellent here. The Lyra Dawnbringer seems pretty reasonable. It forces Ragen to have action like Beacon Bolt or Ral as well. The extra Justice Strike I like quite a lot. Clean answer to Niv Mizzet. Almost always an answer to a Drake. If you care about the Drake, it'll kill it.
Yeah. If you had a chance to look over the holiday sale at StarCityGames.com, that goes on all month. It is our biggest sale of the year, and we add new items every day, so you want to keep checking that out, StarCityGames.com/holiday sale. And that was a game where Ben was on the play and Charlotte on a mull to 6 as well, remember.
Yeah, this matchup, if you want to think about it just in complete abstract terms, if you want to assign somebody as the beatdown, that player would have to be Ragen, just because he has more creatures in his deck, you know, the 8 Drake version.
Yeah.
But even still, I don't think that play draw is a huge element of this matchup. This matchup's largely about card economy.
There aren't many cards that seem to really power up or down based on whether play or draw.
Right.
You know. Sometimes I see blue mirrors where it's like the person on the play gets to search for Azcanta and have it be like negate proof, you know, or something like that. But there's no real big card that you just need to land on curve.
Right. You need to hit land drops. You need to be able to fight over the removal spells if the game is not about Niv Mizzet, or you just need to Niv Mizzet.
Yeah, it feels like, you know, even your 3-mana cards like Enigma Drake are pretty easily answered by 2-mana removal, so your opponent's going to catch up.
Yep.
Opt into Discovery for Ben. He fills up the graveyard in the first couple turns. 2 dive downs in hand, waiting for that Niv Mizzet. At that point, even a Crackling Drake's pretty good. Charlotte just with some tapped lands. Ben tries to search for Azcanta. That one works. Shocks for Steam Vents and says go.
Shocking for Steam Vents after search is some interesting sequencing.
Right.
Makes it suggest that Ben's not hanging out with Spell Pierce, though Charlotte was tapped off of something like Negate Mana, and you wouldn't expect Spell Pierce from the Jeskai deck.
It kind of suggests like Shock if you think he's respecting Legion War Boss.
I think specifically Opt because the matchup is not one where your life total really matters in terms of nickels and dimes.
And did end up being Opt. And going back to Ben, we see another Discovery. That's card 6 into the graveyard. If he surveils one of these in, he can transform that. I guess I'll get it next turn regardless. Top card's another Discovery and a Crackling Drake.
I definitely bias towards not drawing too many copies of Crackling Drake in a matchup like this, just because you really turn on your opponent's counter spells with it. It's 4 mana at sorcery speed. The real prize is, of course, Niv Mizzet. It's a fine card to check, but the concern is you cast Crackling Drake, your opponent counters it, and then just follows up immediately with something like Teferi.
And that 7th card in the graveyard to transform Azcanta. It's 5 spells in the graveyard already for Ben Ragen, and he has 3 Drakes in hand. But kind of what you were saying, he actually just passes here, choosing to that Azcanta activation over trying to make any of these 3 creatures.
Yeah, the Azcanta is just better than Drake here. There's a myriad of ways that Charlotte just deals with the Drake right away or on the way down, whereas you can use your Azcanta to drum up counter magic.
8-card hand for Charlotte. She says go. Ben's going to have to use his Azcanta. Finds a Spell Pierce.
Face-up Spell Pierce, not the best card in Magic history.
And Charlotte discards a land, so let's go. No, it's... In this matchup, though, he might play.
Yeah. Ragen does have a mana advantage because of that Azcanta.
Yeah, on 7 lands, he's going to start with Enigma Drake, making sure to leave up enough for that Azcanta.
And that is in a nice position here, because he's representing mana to fight over things, but realistically, he's just going to be using that Azcanta no matter what happens.
Charlotte will Sinister Sabotage away the Drake. Surveils into the graveyard. Ben can either Azcanta or he can make a Crackling Drake here. He gets his choice.
Very into just using the Azcanta. Tapping out when you have this much disruption available to you is relatively precarious, especially when the value is free on the other end.
You're asking to get Teferi'd?
You're asking to get a lot of things. I mean, really, step 1, you're giving up value. You just had this Azcanta activation. You're saying, nah, I don't need that. It's ungrateful.
Yeah. Against a 4 Niv Mizzet deck like Brian Braun-Duin's, can Ben do this sort of game plan? Because then you're always worried your opponent just slams a Niv Mizzet into all your open mana anyway.
It's tougher, but you're not necessarily getting there with your Crackling Drake in that situation anyway.
Sure. Ben misses on his Azcanta, plays Crackling Drake from the turn, and passes 3 mana up. Hand pretty good. 2 dive downs, Spell Pierce. He drew Ral as at Viceroy. That one may not come into play this game, but Charlotte still digging. She goes for another Chemister's Insight.
Yeah, that's met by the Spell Pierce that both players knew about. Though Charlotte not light on cards in hand. Really just needs to be spending mana at every opportunity available.
Yeah, it looks like she has Justice Strike, her own Crackling Drake, and a Cleansing Nova.
A sequence of Justice Strike eating a dive down and then Crackling Drake as a blocker is a pretty good development for her.
Here is Justice Strike. It will eat a dive down. Does she want to go for another Crackling Drake? She has left up the mana for it.
Yeah, and one,
That'll-
Ragen's not going to be able to do anything about that.
And she'll get a card.
Ooh. And it was a Niv Mizzet.
All right, that seems to be how in this matchup we've been watching, games seem to be ending that way.
Yes. They seem to be, because they are.
Yeah, because that is... Now, if Ben makes enough Drakes here, maybe he can win through Niv Mizzet, except that Cleansing Nova will be an issue then.
So it looks like he might be going for his Rail to clean up this Crackling Drake, but that's going to leave him even more vulnerable to Niv Mizzet.
Yeah,
now Rail doesn't have enough loyalty for the next turn.
-3 shoots down the Drake. He swings in. It is 1. We'll get a count here. It's a lot. Looks like maybe 7. Yeah, Charlotte down to 13.
That's the number where I think you're outside of the range where Charlotte has to worry about just casting Niv Mizzet and then going. Now, potentially the Rail can really pump the Drake, but it has to find a lot of instant sorceries, and they also generally get to the graveyard by Ben casting them, which is good for Charlotte.
Yeah, here's Niv Mizzet from Charlotte, and she'll pass tapped out. The question is, if you're in Ben's spot and you just tick down and you swing with the Drake, can Charlotte take a hit?
I'm pretty sure you're not really worried. There's not much in the way of direct damage effects from the Drake deck.
It'd be if his shocks would still have to be in.
And it would have to be a bunch of them, too.
And he's deciding now, does he want to start burning some cards on step? He does not. Back to Ben we go. Niv Mizzet in play. Ben draws an island. No help there. Rail's does not have enough loyalty to deal with the Niv Mizzet.
Yeah, the Rail against the Crackling Drake, instead of a line of just attacking with Drake, trying to get a trade and then casting the other Drake, really cost him in the face of Niv Mizzet. I think it showed some unfamiliarity with the matchup.
Top 2 cards from Ben. Looks like we have Chart a Course and Crackling Drake. Bins the Chart a Course.
Yeah, not great to be casting instants and sorceries that don't kill Niv Mizzet when Niv Mizzet's on the table.
4 mana is another Crackling Drake. Ben will draws Chart a Course. Swings with his Drake. It's 8 in the yard. This would put Charlotte to 5.
I think you got to take that.
Yeah, blocking here and you're losing, right?
That, depending on what is in Charlotte's hand, might also have to Cleansing Nova the next turn to clear the board.
Right.
So with the Niv Mizzet, there's a lot of configurations that let you just start hitting things. I think objective 1's probably just sending your Niv Mizzet towards that Rail, clearing the Planeswalker, because your answers against creatures are a little bit easier to come by.
She draws another Niv Mizzet. This is her first draw for the turn. Where to shoot the damage? We will see.
I will say that the Jeskai deck's quite a bit worse at Niv Mizzet turns than the Izzet Drake's deck is. You don't have access to things like Chart a Course and Discovery Dispersal. Looks like the hand's full of abilities that are 4 and 5 mana, which you can't leverage terribly effectively. With the Chemist's Insight, the floor on your turn, I suppose from 7 mana you would need to find a land, then you get to cast 2, which gives you 6 cards overall, 6 points of damage to distribute. Though this turn very likely has to involve that Cleansing Nova.
Just deciding after that draw where the damage was going and decided it goes at Rail. Chemist's Insight from Charlotte. That'll draw 2. She'll get 2 damage to throw around.
3 even.
Right. One off the... This card's dumb. 1 off the cast spell, then 2 off the actual resolution.
I had to control Niv Mizzet a few times before I had a grasp of how powerful the card was.
And here's 2 more. Can send 1 at Rail, and we'll see where the last one, whether she has... and thinks she can get that Drake down or whether it's going upstairs. And she's going to put damage on a Crackling Drake.
This dive down Spell Pierce combo and Ragen's hand could pose some serious problems.
She's tapping out to jumpstart it. That might mean she's dead to this attack.
Yeah, well, I figure what happens here. 3 more damage goes on the Drake. Ragen dive downs, and then the attack is lethal.
right? Yeah. And then attempts to resolve Chemist's Insight and says, no, hold on. You get your card draw, but I'm going to Spell Pierce or dive down. It doesn't really matter. They should both work.
Right.
Yeah, he'll dive down the one she's trying to target. So Charlotte won't be able to remove either Drakes, and that attack's going to go ahead and send this one to a third game.
That is what you saw there. Yeah. One of the weaknesses of Jeskai in the matchup is when Izzet Drake's on task with Niv Mizzet, you cast a bunch of 2-mana spells that also naturally draw cards.
Yeah, we did actually see Niv Mizzet lose a game in this matchup there, which was a first.
And part of the problem is Chemister's Insight costs 4. Cleansing Nova costs 5.
I wasn't hugely impressed with the Chemister's Insights in those games. It just feels like on quantity, they're not matching up well against cards like Crackling Drake.
Yeah, in this format, there's matchups and there's situations where it feels like Chemister's Insight's the exact card you want. Gasses back up, cleans up your hand a little bit. But if you talk about just the raw power of the card, it's just a downgrade from Glimmer of Genius.
Yeah.
That's really just the fact of the matter.
Yeah, Inspiration, even if you can jumpstart it, is that a lot of times we've had standard formats. If you go back to our first time in Ravnica, in Return to Ravnica, rather, Inspiration was in the first set. No one really touched the card.
Right.
And we are seeing some of that. Now, granted, that's Jace Architect of Thought was there, so there's other reasons, but it's not the most powerful.
But even within this format, you wouldn't play the card in Jeskai Control, but Chart a Course, pound for pound, is just a better card than Chemister's Insight. Being able to leverage that card is more powerful.
Players quickly presenting here for game number 3. This one will have Charlotte on the play.
And making land drops and being able to cast your spells is definitely more important than the play-draw dynamic, as kind of the way things line up. Ragen's plan involves casting creature spells and having dive down available.
So I generally like to play decks like Jeskai Control, and typically blue-red decks are hard to deal with. And that last game felt to me like one of the reasons why. Charlotte made land drops each turn. She had sweepers, she had her finishers, but the cards kept just trading down on mana. There'd be like you go for a 4-mana spell, they Spell Pierce it. You try to kill their spell, their card, they dive down it. And these things, they just seem to add up.
Right.
Charlotte on a mulligan here in the third game.
Yeah, just tapping 4 and 5 every turn against your opponent tapping a 1. It's going to catch up with you.
And when your opponent has all the 1-mana interaction, there's not too much you can do about it. It's hard to play around 1-mana instants. They don't usually take down the mana for them.
Right. And even in that Game 2 situation, there was just a face-up Spell Pierce. It was revealed to his Kanta the Sunken Rune. If your spells cost almost as much mana as the mana you have available to you, that's still going to be a problem.
Shot on a mulligan here to 5. It's a Goblin War Boss deck. There are ways 5 hard hands can get here.
3 lands, War Boss, Other. That's the composition you're looking for.
Sure.
It's a Hail Mary, but it could get there.
We'll put Chemister's Insight in there.
Ooh. Now we're cooking.
Now we're cooking. Charlotte keeping on 5. We'll see what she can put together. Did see her win game 1 on 6. Couple so far so good on lands. So Ragen, one of his sideboard treasure maps in the hand. He'll go for search for Azcanta. Either way, that will earn Charlotte's Syncopate.
Yeah, pretty sure either of those would get tagged there. Ooh, and Ragen respecting an additional counterspell there.
Well, he didn't have the land. He went Discovery for it, but missed.
There it is.
And this is actually a way that Charlotte can get some relief in this game. Now, Bandit is their land. It's Steam Vent's tapped. She doesn't have the Chemister's Insight.
And now Ragen priced into leaving up Disdainful Stroke, Fear of Teferi.
Yeah.
But then Charlotte just doesn't have a 5th mana source. Has the Teferi, can't cast it.
And this game's gotten really interesting. Ben Ragen on an 8-card hand.
Well, Ben's paid off if he draws 4th mana source here, but he didn't, which means he can't treasure map plus leave up Disdainful Stroke here.
He goes for Chart a Course to try to find that land drop. He makes the land drop and discards a dive down. I do like the play quite a bit.
That drew 2 lands, and now Ben's in good shape.
Yeah, land 5 from Charlotte. Is she going to run this Teferi into the Disdainful Stroke? Ben has it. But Charlotte's hand looks to be Syncopate and at least 1 seal away. At some point, she's going to have to try for this Teferi. Right now, determining that it's too dicey. She'll hold it up for a turn. For Ben, 5th land. It's going to be Treasure Map. The card like this, Ben's not going to have to tap out.
I would have considered syncopating for 4 on that.
Land 6 here. She's holding on Syncopate. Does that mean, I guess this advantage is that if you wait until 7 mana, you can actually try to defend your Teferi with the Syncopate, depending on how Ben taps?
Yeah, it's unlikely, though. Kind of what we've been talking about the entire match is how most of what Ben is up to costs 1 mana, 2 mana.
Yeah, it's the mana. Mana's the issue, and Syncopate's not a very mana-efficient card.
Right. Also, the fact that you can't syncopate Niv Mizzet, that looks like a seal away is available if the Drake is what you want to fight over.
Crackling Drake is the play from Ben. It's going to earn Charlotte's Syncopate. Go back over there. There's land 7, but she doesn't have a second Syncopate, so she's not actually going to get this Teferi just yet. It accidentally shows the Teferi. At that point, might as well go for it. Ben's going to Disdainful Stroke.
Second Teferi might be pretty good here.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. Once your opponent knows you have one, you know, he's not going to ever take down Disdainful Stroke again.
It didn't look like he was ever going to there either.
Right. And now Ben hasn't punished Drew. Ral, is it Viceroy? He'll go for the play. Does she have a counterspell? It looks like a pair of Sealaways, and the Planeswalker is in play.
Being ahead 1 rail, 1 treasure map to just lands with a Niv Mizzet in hand, this is a pretty commanding position for Ragen here.
Yeah, didn't want to make the Niv Mizzet because he actually has dive down, so he's waiting for that 1-2 punch on 7 mana to protect the Niv Mizzet, and it should work. Not even clear if he needs to go for that. Between Ral and treasure map, he's got all these tools at his disposal.
Right. Though you may as well, just because the diversity of permanent types is just going to be advantageous to you.
Right.
Lewis isn't going to destroy all artifacts, planeswalkers, and creatures.
Ralph ticks up to 7, finds Ben more lands. And here's 6 mana. Here's Niv Mizzet. Ben Ragen looks like he has Beacon Bolt, Dive Down, another land, and now he's got a Niv Mizzet.
This is like late game Monopoly.
Everyone's favorite part of Monopoly.
Yeah.
When you're still playing.
This is like hotels on the green ones, you know?
Yeah. That's fun. You can only even build the hotels. If they're at the point where they can afford those things, then the game ended an hour ago, but you're still playing.
Yeah, that's probably a fair point.
A lot of lands. Ben's going to flip Treasure Cove. Ral's going to go up to 8, draw him some more cards in case. So he's going to draw a card every turn with Ral, a card every turn with Treasure Cove, a card every time Charlotte casts anything, a card every time he casts something. You know. Here's some more cards, 2 more from Chart a Course.
Pre-combat Chart a Course, the disrespect.
Well, if it's going to get settled the wreckage, you got to get your lava spike in.
No, you wouldn't get that trigger.
Discarding Beacon Bolt, that's a great feeling.
Oh yeah, discarding jumpstart spells is nice.
Another Opt, here's another damage, and Opt, of course, 2 cards with Niv Mizzet. So Charlotte, you see all these triggers. Charlotte's life total going down by some 1s.
Oh yeah, she's paying full retail for landing on North Carolina Avenue right now.
He's been waiting for someone to do that.
I've been expecting you.
Here's another cantrip that's gonna draw 2 more and deal 2 more. Ben's got to start making sure he doesn't draw his entire deck.
Well,
this is all pre-combat damage in Charlotte's at 12, which is nice.
I would assume the deck has more than 20 total cards, so usually
we're probably fine.
Hit your opponent down with a Niv Mizzet before that's a problem.
All right. The math adds up.
I have ended a lot of games with similar decks to this where I just have 20 or fewer cards in my deck.
I always get stressed out about when I have decks like this because, like, part of me hates discarding to hand size, but, like, I can't make it stop, okay? Every time I try to play my cards, there's just more of them. And I'm just like, it just... You know, I mean, it's a great situation, but it's a little stressful. There's nothing we can do to make our hand decrease in size.
Rats. Yeah, why doesn't Niv Mizzet give you no maximum hand size? Ew. Sounds like there's a very important judge call at the table.
Did Ben play a land?
This is just gonna really press.
The game hinges on this one.
Gee, I don't know. Ben could just discard the hand size, do nothing else with this turn.
Charlotte's at 9. Remember, we haven't attacked yet.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I think he can one-shot here because he's still got those treasure tokens. We got more cantrips to play.
If every treasure token amounted to 1 spell that drew a card, that would do it.
Shock you. Nice.
So Chart a Course is worth 3 damage for 2 mana.
Yeah.
You can get to 8 with that configuration with 5 mana.
We've ruled that Ben has already played a land. So see, like, these 7 more he's drawn this turn? He can't play any of those.
Well, let's swing the advantage bar back the other way. All right, no more land drop.
We got to respect Settle the Wreckage, so there was no swing here.
Glad we got to the bottom of that.
Yeah.
That would have been a great injustice.
Well, Justice Strike has been drawn for the Niv Mizzet.
All right.
Yep. Okay, target. Ben draws a card. Up, take 1 more. Let's keep doing this. Okay.
I would consider casting Dive Down.
Oh, Dive Down, draw. To take another.
All right, the confusion phase has started.
Niv Mizzet is very confusing.
Maybe that was an attempt at an end-step spell. Yeah, so Ben cleaned up, it looked like, and I think that a spell was attempted after cleanup. You don't get priority again after a player discards the hand size.
Okay.
I believe that that's what we're looking at.
Yes. This is true. So we'll, they need to determine which phase they're in. Yeah. Looks like because the discard happened, that you can't end step the Justice Strike once you let your opponent discard the hand size. You'll have to main phase it. Judge will fix that, and then shuffle the deck. And now we'll go to Charlotte's turn. A second Justice Strike. Maybe this one will kill Niv Mizzet.
Well, issue is also that neither of them could ever do anything about Rail, which is at 8.
Yeah. Dive Down. Another Justice Strike. We know Ben, you got to draw a card off her Justice Strike. No. All right, Ben.
Better rewind.
Better rewind. Hold on, there's a missed trigger.
I believe that's a mandatory trigger on Niv Mizzet. Anyway, congratulations to Ben Ragen, 8-0 in day 1.
Yeah, Is It Drake's pacing the field? We know Ben Ragen is undefeated going into day 2. Is It Drake's and Affinity was his formula for getting there. 4-0 with both.
Yeah, huge fan of this deck. I saw a lot of players play.